When Adam was 130 years old, he and Eve had another son. They named him Seth, because they believed God had given them a child to replace Abel. Seth grew up and had a son named Enosh. During the time of Enosh, the world began to change for the worse. People started to rebel against God. They forgot their Creator and began making idols out of brass, iron, wood, and stone. Every man made his own god and bowed down to it. God was deeply angered by this. To warn them, he caused the river Gihon to overflow, flooding and destroying a third of the earth. Even then, the people did not stop doing evil. Because of their sins, the land became cursed. Farmers could no longer grow food. When they planted seeds, only thorns and thistles grew. A terrible famine spread across the earth. Enosh had a son named Cainan. Cainan grew up to be an incredibly wise and skilled leader. He became king over all people. He was so knowledgeable that he even had power over spirits and demons. Through his wisdom, Cainan realized that God would eventually send a massive flood to destroy humanity because of their wickedness. To preserve this knowledge, he wrote what would happen on stone tablets and hid them among his treasures. Cainan ruled the whole earth and tried to lead some people back to serving God. Cainan had many children, including 2 daughters, Adah and Zillah. They both married a man named Lamech. In those days, men were acting against God's command to have children. Many gave their wives a drink that made them barren, just so the women would keep their beautiful figures and not look like mothers. Zillah was one of the women who drank this and stayed barren for a long time. However, when Zillah was old, God opened her womb. She gave birth to a son named Tubal-Cain and a daughter named Naamah. She was overjoyed, saying that even after she had withered away, God had given her delight. When Lamech was very old, his eyes grew dim and he became nearly blind. His young son, Tubal-Cain, would lead him by the hand. One day, while they were in a field, Tubal-Cain saw something moving in the distance. He thought it was a wild animal and told his father to aim his bow. Lamech fired an arrow and struck the figure. When they went to look at the animal, they were horrified to find Cain, Adam's son, who had been struck. God had finally brought justice for Abel by allowing Cain to also be struck by another. Lamech was filled with such grief and shock that he clapped his hands together with great force. In his clumsiness and sorrow, he accidentally struck his young son, Tubal-Cain. When his wives, Adah and Zillah, found out, they were furious. They hated Lamech for hurting both their ancestor and their son, and they refused to live with him. Lamech pleaded with them. "Listen to me. I am old and gray. My eyes failed me. I didn't do it on purpose or out of violence." Eventually, Adam stepped in and advised the wives to return to Lamech. They listened and went back to him, but they had no more children after that. They knew that God's anger was growing and that a great flood was coming to wipe out the world. The family line continued through Mahalalel, who had a son named Jared, who then became the father of Enoch.